the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Hello and greetings. This is Muhammad Suleiman Ahmadzai, here with a new session for you, my friends. So, when we open the Paint program, after launching Paint, try to notice that at first, you and I have this section here. This is the drawing canvas, the drawing canvas. Up to this point, we can draw here. That is, this part you see here is the application background section. We can't work here, but on this canvas you see, you can do any kind of drawing here. That's why, the first thing we do is adjust the page size using this sizing point. We call this the horizontal sizing point. We call this the vertical sizing point, and these are the skew points. We can set both the width and height at the same time, deciding how much they should be. This is what determines it. Otherwise, if you haven't used this, you press Ctrl+W. From there, you come and set the width and height of the page to whatever you want. You proceed based on that. For example, once you enter, your page is this size, but you want it to be twice as big. We press Ctrl+W. Here, I tell it, for example, I want this to be twice as big as this. Again, we come and set 2 levels. Again, it becomes twice as big as that. But for now, it changes both the width and height at the same time. We could have told it, for example, no, make the width, say, 200, but not the height. For example, set the width to 200 and the height to, say, 170, something like that. I unchecked this so they wouldn't be linked together. This is fixed as well. We can resize it like this, making it bigger or smaller, but the easiest way is using the sizing point like this. In programming, we call this part the title bar or caption bar. We call this other part the control box or caption button. Close, restore, maximize, minimize. We have about 25 functions here. This part is called the application title. This part is called the page title, and here is called the quick access toolbar, and its list is referred to as the quick access toolbar property. This part is the application logo, and I call this the system menu. The system menu opens with a right click. We had previously learned in the last 2 programs that Alt plus space is a shortcut. After that, you can press R, M, S, and so on. Well, it's something repetitive, but we had already worked on it. These are called tabs. Tab means header. Tab bar refers to the bar of headers. We refer to this part where the pointer is as the ribbon. Inside the ribbon, each of these is called a group, and these are called group titles. We had group titles just like in WordPad. In WordPad, we also had 1 ruler. Here, for the horizontal ruler, we have 2 rulers. We also have a vertical ruler. Vertical ruler means the vertical ruler, and horizontal ruler means the horizontal ruler. We have both of them. We also have the same scroll bar here. This one is called the vertical scroll bar, and this one is called the horizontal scroll bar. With one, you scroll the page left and right, and with the other, you scroll up and down. But as long as the page is small and there's no need to scroll, they won't be shown. When the page gets bigger, then they will appear. Second, this is called the help button. It's an assistance button. We had studied this before. Ribbon expand/collapse button. Its shortcut is F1 or Ctrl+F1. You could do this from here if you wanted. Or we could also do this from the quick access toolbar properties section using minimize or something similar. The shortcut is Ctrl+F1. Whenever you hover your cursor over any button, regarding this, the full name isn't just resize. This is resize and skew. We told you what this was called. Skew points. Our purpose was skew. Skew points are the things you work with for both width and height at the same time. So, look at the name of these buttons. Resize and skew. Its shortcut is Ctrl+W. Again, it tells you what its function is and what it does. I call this a screen tip. These are the small pop-up windows we have. On this screen, whenever we want, we can right-click. This is called the context menu, which basically has the same functions as the default menu or tabs. This bar that is located at the pointer is called the status bar. It's an information bar that we can ultimately use. Before we start working on the lesson about tabs, let me mention a few important points about the Paint program, because things work a bit differently here. When we worked with WordPad or Notepad, our main focus was on text, but here, we're not working with text. We're dealing with drawings and pictures, so the page isn't used the same way. In WordPad, for example, we would just type and the text would appear, but this page is for drawing, painting, and so on. That's why things work a bit differently here. The first good thing is that when you create an object, a drawing, or anything on the page, as you draw them, each one comes with its own frame, a box around it. For example, when we go to draw a circle, it has a selection box like this. As long as you are inside the selection box and haven't clicked outside of it, it stays in active editing mode. That means you can edit it, you can change its size, its color, you can do all sorts of little things to it. But as soon as you click outside of it, it goes back to its normal state. It exits editing mode. You can't make any more changes or do different things to it. So whenever you draw an object, before you click outside of it, it needs to be inside the frame. That means finish your work, and then click outside. These selection points do different things. For example, if we're inside this, we can move this for now, we can shrink the width of our object. We can make its length smaller or larger. For example, we can make skew points both width and length smaller and larger at the same time. We can take control with positivity. Positive control. Let's make its lines wider. With negative control, we can make its lines thinner. It actually works with size, but the main thing is that if we want to use shortcuts, we can make it as big or small as we want. If we click outside of this, none of these actions will happen. That's why this is important. Positive and negative control doesn't always work, so just try it at the right time. If your computer is a desktop. Our topic here is about this plus and minus. But this plus and minus is not our main goal. Some laptops, for example, don't have this, like American ones, so you can't use it here. On laptops that, for example, have a numeric section like desktops do. Again, we can use things like control plus and control minus. But on computers, on laptops that work like this, we have to use the menu instead. So, after this topic, what do we have next? So now, try to notice that if I use the same shortcut again or try to change the size, since this isn't selected. For example, if I press Ctrl minus, it won't shrink, but if I draw a new one, whatever new thing I draw, I'll try, and it will be thin. That means it's been applied to that one. What this means is that if I'm inside the selection, right here, you'll see the change, like it doubled, for example, or it got thinner. But if I'm not inside it, say I clicked outside, and I still press Ctrl plus, we might think its width isn't increasing. Whereas it actually does, but it's just not being applied to that one. The next one we draw will be doubled. Or, for example, if we click outside again and press Ctrl minus, it doesn't get smaller. The one we draw next, and if we set it for that, its outline will become thinner. So it's better if it doesn't exit selection mode when we're drawing. Let's draw it together so you can see. The same thing applies to other tools as well. It also applies to the eraser pencil. For example, when you select the eraser pencil, see, the eraser pencil is a bit rough, and wherever you want, it erases. If I come again and hold down Ctrl plus, what happens? What does this do? It gets bigger. Then, when we erase with it, you see, it erases that part more easily. In fact, our eraser pencil works like an eraser pen, meaning it has color inside it. It has white color, and it applies it on the page. Well, you might think that it's actually erased. Why? Because its color is white. But for example, in Sketchbook, by default, the color here, this color is the color inside our eraser pencil. If, for example, I make the background red, now look at Sketchbook. Now it becomes clear that it wasn't erasing at all. It was just applying white color on top of it. Because our background was white, we thought it was erasing. It just absorbs it more into itself. Well, we couldn't see it because white on white blends together. This only happens when the background is white, or it does the same thing as before. But we say, no, it's being erased. Why? Because we don't see those extra colors. Because the color on top of it matches the color. The eraser tool works like this. Actually, for example, if our page background is, say, red, it's like this. If the page background is red and the eraser pencil is white. For example, now in this case, the situation is the opposite. Now, if it works like before, it actually works incorrectly. Previously, when the background was white, it would show this. Now, if I use the eraser pencil and the background is white, it appears like this. You can't really tell that it's erasing. Now, it's clear that the color is matching on top of it. Because before, the background was white, that's what we thought. So in this situation, what should we do? The background should also be red. It needs to match this with the background. Here too, you might think it's being erased because the background is red. Our eraser pencil is red. We think it's being erased. That's why, by default, the eraser pencil is white. But if you try to match it with your background as needed. Another thing is when we draw a shape like this. For example, let's draw a circle. If we want the circle to be perfect, no matter how hard we try, it always ends up a bit oval. It turns out like an egg, or like this, or like that. Meaning, no matter how much we try, it still takes on that shape. But there's a shortcut for that. When you're drawing, if you hold down Shift, always remember that. Shift is a good thing, because for example, if you move the mouse by mistake, it goes up and down, so it doesn't take on that oval shape. It draws a perfect, regular circle. But if I let go of Shift, you see, it turns into an oval shape. Depending on your needs when drawing, it doesn't matter, but if you want a perfect circle, you have to hold Shift. Also, later you can use Ctrl+ or minus to adjust the line thickness as needed. It's the same for anything you draw. For example, let's say we want to draw a square. Now, we have a square, just like that. This one here is a rectangle. If its width and length aren't equal, we call it a rectangle. But if we want to draw a perfect square, what do we need to do again? We need to hold Shift while drawing it. Or for example, here, let's say you want to draw a star. If you draw a star, sometimes its width is too much or its height is too much. But if we want to draw a star where all four angles are perfectly regular, what do we need to hold down again? Shift. Otherwise, it will take on this irregular shape. So, when drawing, we use this method. Another thing is, for example, if you want to copy an object right after drawing it. For example, in my example here, let's say we've drawn this object. We want to copy it. So, what do we do with it? You select it. One way is, of course, copy and paste. That's the normal way most people use. But the way we want to do it is actually a shortcut. When we select it, we hold down Ctrl and move it with the mouse. If you don't hold Ctrl, it just moves the original. But when I hold Ctrl, it moves a copy instead. The copy moves. In most design programs, when you copy something, you usually make a quick copy. But this is a copy with a slight delay. But if you also hold down Shift, then it copies instantly, without any delay. If you hold Shift. But if you just hold Ctrl, don't hold anything else. Then, depending on your speed, whether you're fast or slow, it pastes a lot. If you're too fast, for example, it pastes less. Basically, when you want to copy something, for example, let's say this is an object. If we select it and just use Ctrl, as we said, it only moves once. But if we hold Shift, it moves a lot more, meaning it copies more times. So, if we want to make multiple copies. And finally, dear friends, I ask that if you found these videos helpful, please like the videos to support us and help the channel grow. Subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in future sessions. Goodbye.